8 minutes before 10 o'clock here, and we are back for the third and final session. What's happening on these charts? Over on the left, US dollar, Canadian dollar, prices above the moving average. We've just seen it cross on the accelerator oscillator above. Looks like we would have been in a buy trade around about here that would currently be moving a bit against us. We'll see how that one ends up. Euro, Swiss franc in the middle. Prices had a bit of a move the last few periods. Now might be coming off the top. Currently below the moving average still. So now we're on the lookout for that crossover on the accelerator oscillator below zero. That would get us into a sell trade. An Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar on the right. It's the opposite to that Euro Swiss franc. Price has been coming down here. A few red candles. And the accelerator oscillator with a big move beneath zero. If price does return, then we could get in with a buy trade. Judging from the last couple sessions, I don't think it would take too long for us to get into a trade with the accelerator oscillator. Before we do though, let's take a look at the economic calendar. There is a lot of events today, too many to fit onto one screen. We're going to do a whistle stop tour. We don't have time for everything. You can see it on screen if you do want to check out what's been going on. In Canada, happy National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Hopefully politicians above all else honour the day. What about numbers in the Asia session? Over in South Korea, retail sales month on month, negative 0.8 against a forecast of 0.3, dropping there. But not as badly as Japan. Month-on-month retail sales for them, negative 4.1 against a forecast of 1.3. So they missed the forecast by 5.4%. Big miss for them. New Zealand had building consents month-on-month coming at 3.8% versus 2.3% forecast. And the ANZ business confidence coming through, a minus 7.2 actual versus minus 15.1 forecast. So a couple beats for them. China, manufacturing PMI, non-manufacturing PMI, about as they were predicted. Australian building approvals month on month, they had a win there, 6.8% actual against a negative 6.4% forecast and a negative 8.6% previous. That was the Asian session. We've already had some numbers in the European, a few from the GBP. Business investment quarterly up 4.5%. That was forecast just at 2.4. Current account a bit better than expected as well. Negative 8.6 billion against negative 19. The big one though, GDP quarterly, and it is better than expected, 5.5% versus 4.8 forecast and 4.8 previous. And we also get the nationwide house price index month on month, year on year, which didn't come through yesterday. Month on month, 0.1% against forecast of 0.9. It's good to see house prices slow, and the previous was 2% increase last month. France have had their CPI in. It's good news for them, I'd say, under the particular circumstances, negative 0.2%. They were expecting 0.3. Inflation coming down a little bit there on the CPI, but then when we look at the PPI month on month, the producer's price index, 1% actual versus 0.8% forecast. So a touch higher than expected, which might feed through to the CPI down the line, but at least they haven't had runaway numbers on both. That's what we've had so far. 90 seconds time, we get the Swiss economic barometer. Unemployment numbers trickling in throughout the session as well. 10:55 Germany, 11 o'clock Italy, and 12 o'clock for the Eurozone as a whole. Also at 12 o'clock, we get the CPI and HICP from Italy. Their CPI is forecast at 0.2%. Month-on-month PPI for South Africa at 12:30. We do get the German CPI at 3 o'clock as well with the HICP. Monthly numbers, CPI forecast at 0.3% with a flat previous of 0.0. The biggest numbers coming at 3:30 though on the US dollar, GDP quarterly, and initial jobless claims. Have to look out for some volatility and volume going on there. Jerome Powell, Chair of the Federal Reserve, back in testimony at 5 o'clock as well. Depends on what he's talking about, but you do usually expect to see some volatility when he's talking. Always potential for him to drop some major news as well, whether on purpose or by mistake under questioning. That is all the main stuff though. A lot of events on the calendar, as we said, numbers trickling in throughout the day that we'll keep an eye on, and then 3 o'clock till 5 o'clock, that's when we expect the real firepower. Big numbers, Jerome Powell's testimony could get pretty heated then. Let's head back onto the charts. No signals coming just yet as we roll over at 10 o'clock. Let's wait for them to come. 10:45 AM, Euro Swiss franc. We do see price coming down quite a bit, and the accelerator oscillator following suit. Zero line crossover potential over the next few periods. 11:15, and we're now nearing in on a couple signals here. Euro Swiss franc chart has moved below zero on the accelerator oscillator. Quite a sell-off last candle. 15 minutes time, likely that we'll be in a sell trade. Can't see a reversal coming that's going to change this value. And on the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar, we're looking for the crossover above zero, still below at the moment, But as green candles come, if this one finishes green, we'll be getting very close to it there. We have seen a pullback in price, but the entry is going to hold. Let's zoom in on the Euro Swiss franc chart here, and let's get up our ATR. 5.1 pips there is the reading, and that's what we're going in with. 1.5 times that, 7.65. That's the close. You can see we do get the signal, price below the average. Let's get in with our trade. You can see our risk calculator on screen now. And let's just do that stop loss and take profit here. 7.65 rounded up to 77 and 77. Bit of a distance either way. This is the take profit down here, and it's right at the support level, but likewise this stop loss also at the resistance level. Meanwhile, let's have a look at what numbers have been feeding through on the economic calendar. That Swiss economic barometer, 110.6 versus 110.5 forecast, basically on the nose there. Well predicted. German unemployment rate 5.5% now compared to 5.6% forecast. And we've also seen Italian unemployment rate at 9.3%, overall quite a bit higher than Germany, but they also beat the forecast by a little bit and they stayed equal to the previous of 9.3. Also back on the tri-chart setup, there has been a zero line crossover, another one now, Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar, green candle here, pushing it above, which means in just about 12 minutes time, if this one holds, we'll be in a buy trade. This one more likely to reverse. There's been a less upward momentum than the downward momentum we saw on the Euro Swiss franc. At the moment though, looking like a trade. Only 5 minutes into this trade and we are getting absolutely pounded at the moment. 3/4 the way to the stop loss. It's a big buy-in for the euro here. Hits the stop loss there. Not good at all. What a reversal that was. Didn't even make it through the candle. We're not worried though, because we're going to make it all back in 2 minutes time. This buy trade on the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar, it's going to be coming. Let's get in on that one. 45 seconds to go. Let us get with it and pull up that ATR. 6.4 pips is the reading. 1.5 times that, 9.6. Our risk is on screen now. We are ready to get in as soon as that close comes. On the dot for once. There we go. And of course the stop loss and the take profit there. 96 points. As per usual with the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar. It's up there somewhere, the take profit. Does seem as though our trade is going to make it through the first candle. That's a good start, and we're in a little bit of profit there. Keep on trucking, don't bounce off this level. Let's focus for a second though over on the US dollar, Canadian dollar, because we are seeing a buy signal come through here. We got price above the moving average, looks like it's going to hold, and the accelerator oscillator a touch above zero. We are at 9.7 pips for it, which is 14.55 when you multiply it by 1.5. 12 o'clock comes and we do get the close. Let's get in there. It's a buy trade. Stop loss, take profit. You got to have them. You got to set them. Can't just walk away from the screen for weeks. Looking not too shabby. It has been coming down for a good while. Hopefully it's due for a bounce here, even if it's a retracement. Take that profit. That's 2 trades we're in there on our flanks here. But right down the center, just be aware that we are now seeing a zero line crossover once again on the accelerator oscillator, this time above zero, and with such a hard run up on price, we are seeing that above the moving average as well. So we could have trades going on all the charts in just under 14 minutes. That signal isn't going to come though. Price turned red, below the moving average. Still do see the crossover on the oscillator, but with price on the wrong side of the average, not a move we can get in on. We'll have to just rely on our other 2 open trades, which are both going quite nicely at the moment, certainly to our favour. 20-1, and these trades have turned against us by just a touch, in the zone of loss at the moment for both those trades. A few more numbers that have been coming through. That Italian CPI month on month, negative 0.1%. Good for them bringing that down a bit. You don't want to see too many consecutive months like that, but it's certainly good at the moment. Meanwhile, their HICP month-on-month came in at 1.4 against the forecast of 1. We also had Eurozone unemployment as a whole. They're usually pretty good with the forecast here, and no exception, 7.5 actual against 7.4 forecast. And then finally, just about 10 minutes or so ago, we had the South African PPI month-on-month, 0.8% actual against 0.9% forecast. No action for us at the moment. Let's just let these trades run and see how they go. Big run up here on the US dollar, Canadian dollar. Just pulled back from the high a touch, but you can see big buying strength come in. If we can get another push, should get the profit there. There we go, tags our line, and does take the profit there. Fantastic stuff. Bit of good fortune with a strong run up here. But similarly, as we look into the mirror over on the other side for the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, that is coming down the other way and looking ever more likely to hit our stop loss. As it still gets ever closer to our stop loss, we've got a minute before this candle closes here on the Euro Swiss franc. We're going to pull up our ATR there because we are getting a sell signal, which is giving us a reading of 6 pips exactly. 1.5 times that, 9 pips. You can check out our risk for that on screen now as we enter our sell trade. There we go, a bit of a better price than last time. We got in here before. Hopefully this doesn't make consistently higher lows there and retrace. Set that stop loss and take profit in. Alright, and we are good to go. Pretty wide there, as the ATR has been increased from this volatility and the volume that we've seen in the last couple candles. We want to see it go red as possible though. Part like the Red Sea, not over here on the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar. I want to see that green, but here on the Euro Swiss franc. And the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar pair finally triggers our stop loss there. Saw that coming for the last couple periods. Needed a big push back to try and get away from there. Doesn't happen though. So those last 2 trades, basically a bit of a wash. We happened to make $5 more on the one we gained compared to the one we lost. But still, after all that, they cancel each other out and we are now riding all on the Euro Swiss franc. Some people, I imagine, noticed this. I've missed it entirely. Here on that trade we were just in, the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar trade. Obviously, blind as a bat, hadn't noticed that the accelerator oscillator did actually close below 0 right here. So that is where we should have shut off the trade. Wouldn't have saved us much there, just about 2 pips or so, but definitely would have saved a little bit. Never pleased with seeing an unforced error. Cost you an extra $15 here or there. Doesn't seem like much at the time, but you add those up over 20 trades a day. Oof. We live and learn though. Hopefully. 2:45 now in our trade. It's just seen a red candle, looking quite nice there. Not quite in profit again yet, but getting close after it's just been ranging above our entry price a bit for the last hour or so. Meanwhile, over on the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar on the right, could be looking at a buy trade. Not over the 0 line yet. Any more green periods though, likely to see a shift in momentum, and nothing for us just yet on the US dollar, Canadian dollar. Price just ranging. Our trade continuing to go quite smoothly. Another red candle like that and we'll get across the finishing line. That's all we can hope for. Meanwhile, that Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar pair, price has come down a lot in the last period. Might even be enough that next period it flips it below 0. But for now, it is actually giving us that entry signal because it's going to close the accelerator oscillator above 0. So let's get up that ATR. 5 pips exactly, so that's 7.5 pips for the stop loss take profit calculation. You can see how our risk is calculated on the screen. And we'll be going in with a pretty dubious buy trade here. We do see the accelerator oscillator has flipped below 0, but we don't actually have a rule about that. Well, we do have a rule. What the rule is that we've got to wait for it to actually close. See if it sticks. Still very shallow at the moment. If it comes green with a bit of reversal, everything should go fine. But as is, pretty weak move from the accelerator oscillator. Let's get that take profit and stop loss in. Also on the calendar, German CPI came in at 3 o'clock, 0.0 again compared to the previous. They had it forecast at 0.3 this time around, but they have held the line again, absolutely flat across the board in their prices there. Well played. Just over 10 minutes time until we get the GDP quarterly coming out of the US, along with their weekly initial jobless claims. That's the move we were after right there. Profit taken on the Euro Swiss franc. It's a complete win there, and I'm glad we were able to take it a minute before 3:30 here, so before the big numbers come out. Keeps pushing down there. How much momentum is in it? And as the clock does strike 3:30, this accelerator oscillator hasn't reversed. I'm already seeing more losses come. The more we dally, or maybe more gains, we'll close it off. We'll try and close it off. Pretty poor loss from what it could have been there. That's that 3:30 volatility immediately settling in. Finished $60 down. Bit of a waste there because the accelerator oscillator did immediately reverse. Something to reflect on, whether when we're taking entry signals, we say yes if we get the close like that above 0, we enter, but not if the accelerator oscillator has immediately flipped. And probably not entering the trade going into one of the most volatile times of the day. So now we're in no active trades. If I was to predict what the next trade we would get might be, I'd say a long on the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar. I could see a reversal coming into that, but I'm no mystic. And the US numbers coming through pretty sharp there. GDP quarterly, the tiniest possible beat for them, 6.7 actual against that 6.6% forecast, and the weekly initial jobless claims 362,000 against the forecast of 329,000, around about a 10% miss there. Not ideal, but certainly could have been worse. Just after 4:30, and it does look like we are going to get that signal back in with a buy trade in 13 minutes on the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar. The accelerator oscillator quite above zero. It's going to need a big red candle to reverse that. Doesn't seem likely at all to me, but hopefully we get a bit of red so we can get a nicer pullback on the entry. Let's not get in at the high of the day up at this resistance here. And that close is going to come. Let's pull up the Aussie dollar New Zealand chart. Get that average true range in. 5.4 pips is the reading. That'll be 8.1 to the stop loss. And it's another buy trade from us. So this one's a winner. Highest one of the day, as you can see, and it's already coming back down. Potential here that we are in right at this resistance level. Even if we zoom out, it's not looking good. So we better make sure to set our stop loss. I suppose we'll do the take profit as well. There it is, our stop loss. Already about halfway towards it here, just under a minute into the trade. And with the least amount of surprise, we do see the stop loss triggered on our Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar buy trade. 3 buy trades we've had on here today. 1, 2, 3. Pretty bad. And we will say 3 strikes and we are out. We're still not getting the crossover on the US dollar Canadian dollar pair. In fact, it's gone further down below zero. Although I will just report on the last numbers of the day coming out. The Chicago Business Barometer in the US, 64.7 actual against 70.3 forecast. A little bit weaker than expected for the business outlook there, but not catastrophic by any means. So we do finish the strategy with about a 2.5% loss. From our starting balance, we were up at $10,000 exactly when we started, finishing at $9,742.34. Not a good day's trading today, particularly on the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. We've had so many buy trades on this one the last few days. A couple of them come good, most of them, particularly today, really poor. And that was our final session, so let's round off all of our trades in the journal. Our lovely journal. Let's scroll to the bottom and see the final numbers. That is the bottom line, down $257.66. 19 trades in 3 days across the 3 charts. Day 1, it looked pretty bad. We sort of had the loss sandwich here. Started with a gain, which was great, and that was a buy trade on the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar. And we did manage to finish with a gain as well, but all those 5 trades in between did put us down for the day, which immediately puts you on the back foot facing uphill struggle for the rest of the strategy. As we came into day 2, these 6 trades here, we did actually manage to get 3 gains, 3 losses. With a bit more from our gains than our losses, we were able to pull some back, and that left a little bit of hope for us with the strategy that maybe we were just unlucky for the first day, and now the true colours had been revealed with a little bit of an edge on it. But come day 3, that theory was completely squashed, as we have had 4 losses and only 2 wins, and we can see the true devastation of what happens with the accelerator oscillator in a whipsaw range. 3 trades on the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar today, all of them losses. And you might notice on the left hand side of the journal I have asterisked a couple of the trades here where it says buy. Those are the ones just so we know where we've made errors on. Those were 2 completely unforced errors. One was risk related and actually ended up saving us $30 or so. Pretty fortunate there. But this other one, we could have saved about $20, $30 maybe, because we should have manually closed the trade before it found its way to the stop loss. So those errors basically balance themselves out there, but usually errors will end up with more losses than gain. This one was a bit of an exception, I would say. Overall, at least there is plenty of green trades out there that we can see, meaning that you're not going to be left in complete misery, but it's not enough to leave us above our starting balance at the close. Before the video ends, let's just give our final thoughts on the strategy. The first thing that I think is worth mentioning is that we did get quite a few trades out of the strategy. Even trading on just 3 charts on the 15-minute time frame, it gave us plenty of action. If you wanted to, you could then lower the time frame, increase the amount of currency pairs you're trading on. There's all sorts of ways for you to get in a lot more trades if that's what you're aiming for. But for 3 sessions, I do think that the strategy managed to get us a decent sample size of trades. And that's mostly because of how quickly the accelerator oscillator can turn on you. It will tend to head towards that 0 line pretty quickly if price reverses, or even if price just stays in a range. The latter of those can be problematic, as you may end up closing the trade in the range when price never actually decided what it wants to do. That being said, it could of course decide to actually go against you, but that I think is a risk worth taking, as you can't actually make any money if price doesn't move at all. After taking the amount of trades that we did, I'm at least pleased that the strategy didn't obliterate our demo account. A few winning trades were peppered in amongst the losers, so if you are managing your money properly, using tools like the ATR, capping your risk per trade at 1 or 2%, the damage shouldn't be all terrible. But that is the most praise I could possibly give it. We all saw the story and the end result wasn't pleasant. It might not have destroyed the account, but it has still lost quite a bit of money by the final whistle. If you were playing this strategy every single day on every single forex pair, then it may not take long for your account to become a hollow shell of its former self. On that basis, there is no way that I could recommend the strategy be used to actually try and make consistent profits without adding tweaks of your own, so as to make sure that liability for your losses is without doubt removed from me. Use a different filter for the accelerator oscillator, switch up the money management to include a trailing stop loss, or go for a 2-to-1 profit ratio instead of our measly 1-to-1. There's options out there. It's certainly a moldable strategy. Best of luck to you. If that is your life's aim, I will absolutely not be tagging along for that journey. And if you are stuck in a cupboard hiding away from any kind of demon or leviathan, and you do want to ease your mind with more information on the indicators or the strategy used here, then there is a bit of that in the description. And a final word of warning to remember that this strategy was traded with demo money, plastic money, fake stuff. If you are enticed by the results from this strategy and you do want to take it live with real money, then I think it's fair to say you probably have very questionable judgment regardless, and it's unlikely that I'll be able to convince you otherwise. Just try and be a sensible person and it'll probably work out. Thank you for watching. This is Project Trade. I am Darth Trader. There will be more.